everyone, and I would like to welcome you to another webinar in Let's Learn Together program. These webinars are a Partners in Learning program which was initiated by Microsoft. We are hosting teachers from different countries who will present their innovative projects and share their ideas. So it's nice to have you here, and today it is my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Linda Stojanovska, a math professor from the University of St. Clement of Ohrid in Macedonia. She is here with us to present a part of her amazing work in the field of effective technology integration in education. But before that, Mr. Darko Jurekovic, Partners in Learning Manager for Microsoft Croatia, is here with us to welcome all the participants. Darko?
Thank you very much, Eva. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me well. It's a really pleasure to be here and to learn more about the innovative usage of technology in education from teachers all around the world. And I'm really happy that we are for the first time hosting an educator from Macedonia in this cycle of webinars. In 2 weeks' time, educators selected at the European and other regional and continental fora of innovative teachers will gather together on the Worldwide Innovative Educators Forum in Cape Town in South Africa. I hope that from there we'll bring a new cycle of projects to present all around the world, and allow me to express my gratitude to our guest from Macedonia for being with us here, for sharing her experience and her thoughts. And I hope that the ideas presented today will also bring a fruitful discussion with many questions and answers around this topic of dynamic presentation in the classroom presented by Ms. Linda Fahlberg Stojanovska. Thank you very much. That's as much from me for the time being, and let's start with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, should I switch over then? I'm going to switch.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
Okay. So, hi. Just to my presentation is on video projectors and dynamic presentation, and I'd like to say that obviously I'm American by birth, but I came to Macedonia 34 years ago on an exchange program, and I met and I married my husband, who is Macedonian, and my mother-in-law is Croatian, and that's how I ended up with the double name that you see there, and at the University of St. Clement of Ohrid in Bitola, Macedonia. There is a 3-page handout of the static part of this presentation that you can download with the 18 slides that you will see here. I'd like to talk a little bit about static content presentation. It certainly has its place in the world. What we usually think of as the most typical static content presentation is a PowerPoint presentation where the material is already planned and typed in and ready to go. But this doesn't work a lot in an actual classroom. I consider it one of the worst ways to integrate technology in the classroom, because you create a presentation with static content, you turn on your video projector, and you dim the lights, and your pupils, your students, your kids will just go straight into a coma, particularly in mathematics, where they're not all that interested in listening to you anyway. So in this webinar, I would like to look at 2 technologies that I use every day in my mathematics classroom, but I know that most of us aren't mathematics people, so I'd like to point out that these technologies really work regardless of the curriculum, that is, regardless of the program or the subject matter, and also regardless of the test, the assessment method. These are classroom presentation methods that work well and keep the presentation dynamic, but allow you to get to all the technologies. And the first technology is writing in real time and in color. And the second is publishing that class on the web as a PDF, so it stays pretty small. So probably none of us want to have a lot of new equipment. So I'd like to say that this technologies that I use is the standard laptop and video projector plus the graphics tablet. And as you can see, the graphics tablet has an 8-inch, which is 20 centimeters, by 6-inch writing surface. So that makes it big enough so you can really get a hold of it and write like you're normally writing, as if you were writing on a piece of paper. And the 60 € version, which is what I've used, which is $40, let's say, in the United States, but I bought many here, so they're 60 €. And it's a wired version. You can see the USB, so it connects to your laptop. But the pen itself is wireless and uses an a little battery, an AAA battery. This is the only additional equipment that I have. And so how do I write in real time and in color? How do I work in class? I write on that tablet as if I'm at a blackboard using annotation software, which we will show. I open materials and use screen capture software to copy and paste so that I'm not having to sit there and draw images and stuff like that. And then, according to what subject I'm teaching, this is math, I try to use freeware and other things, such as GeoGebra, and do on-the-fly constructions or bring in images. The idea is to use all the technology that you can, but keep the presentation dynamic. And so I'd like to show you an image. This was taken yesterday. Please feel free to stop me and ask me questions. I kind of get going, so please feel free, write in your questions, and Eva will relate them to me, and I will try to answer them. So this was taken yesterday in my classroom. As you can see, the students stretch back quite a distance. And there was 97 students present at this lecture, but it's more of I don't really lecture. I tell them and then they solve and stuff like that. I want you to see, there's the video projector on a bunch of books, my little netbook laptop, and I'm sitting there with my graphics tablet writing, and you can see I can turn left to face my students, so I actually can interact with them, and then I can turn right and see what's up on the wall, actually, because we don't have a good screen. So this is up on the wall where I am writing this information down. So I wanted to show you this picture. We all know that there's no central heating until the 15th of October, so it was very cold that day, so I had my jacket on. But this is like the setup, and of course this works for any classroom, not just math. So when I'm done with my class, I don't record them because that takes up a lot of file space and stuff. But I put everything into the annotation file, and I print it to a PDF file, which is very easy to do. I mean, it takes 1 second. And then I have a ready-to-use page that I link and tell the date, and then I just upload both to my website. So the idea is not only do they get it in class dynamically, but when they get home, they can look at their notes and stuff, and if they don't see something, they can check it or print it out or whatever, so that the content stays dynamic all the time. Video projectors and dynamic content writing in real time and in color. You do need annotation software. Microsoft Research has a great piece of freeware called InkSign. I think you can read the link on the handouts. If not, I can put the link in the question and answers when we're done, or now, or whatever. A Microsoft Office, a lot of us have Microsoft Office, and it comes with OneNote, which is really excellent for this kind of thing. InkSign has a problem that the pages are a little short. I'll show you that in a minute. I was using a graphics tablet long before OneNote and InkSign came out, and our faculty had a project, and we got a smart board, and it came with smart notebook. And so I just started using it and have continued to use it. So this has been going on for probably 7 or 8 years. I use screen capture software. You can use Jing, which is free, and it does screencasts too, which is what I like to do, a lot of screencasts for my students, because then they can replay them over and over. And I use Snagit. That's what I'll be using here, because as I said, I do a lot of screencasts and I caption them and that kind of thing. So my screen capture software, I do use Jing, which you'll see, or Snagit today. Jing is free. I'm sure we're all getting bored with this static content. Okay, and I try really hard to use free and open source software. For example, in mathematics, which probably doesn't interest a lot of you, I use GeoGebra and I use Scratch, which we have translated, my team and I have translated into Macedonian, and it's been translated into all the languages of almost Western and Eastern Europe. For sure, I saw Croatian, Serbian, Bosnian, I saw Slovenian, Slovakian, I saw many different languages, and Macedonian from our team. So I do try to use software that my students can reproduce at home in class. Okay, so enough static content. Let's see some examples. Like I said, I'm sitting in front of my class with my little laptop and my graphics tablet and my video projector. That's all I bring in. So it's basically the same setup as if you're doing a static content presentation, for example, with PowerPoint, except that you just plug in your graphics tablet like it's a mouse in the USB, and you turn on your annotation software, and you're ready to go. That's what we're going to do now. Well, I think we're going to do it. Hang on. We're going to try to do it. Okay, so let me show you InkSign first. That's from Microsoft Research. It's freeware. You can download it. You can see that the tools are over here on the right. I'm going to start working with my graphics tablet. Okay, so I went to the other, one moment, please. Okay, so now I'm working on my graphics tablet, and I would click here and drag thick red and start saying, for example, October 13, 2010. And that would be the title of that, and then I could change the color and start writing what I was going to write. I'm going to work the problem in the Smart Notebook because I'm more familiar with it. But I just wanted to show you that this works very well, this InkSign, and it's free. It has its problem that, like I said, you can only write the length of the page here, so you can't write past this in case your problem goes a little bit farther down. So let's switch to Smart Notebook. This is, hang on, okay. Everybody should see this. Please stop me if you want to ask a question. This is Smart Notebook, and I'm going to drag down the reason why I like this particular program. It's because I have a toolbar on the side that I can customize exactly as I want. So these are my pens here up at the top. These are my lines, and there's thinner ones. Then I have arrows and dotted ones. I have boxes over here, and I have highlighting pens and check marks and the standard, what we all need, eraser. So it's nice that the tools are separate and can be customized, which neither InkSign nor OneNote do very well. But they both have good points to them too. So now, I'm going to work on a math problem, but the math isn't the interesting part. It will be how I work dynamically. Hopefully, it'll be interesting. How I work dynamically and go between technologies, and yet everything is on my annotation page. So I start, let's say, I'm going to say that the problem is graph, don't get excited, it won't be math, graph the line y equals 3x minus 2. And I immediately put a box around that so that everybody knows that that's the main point that we're going to be working on. Now, because I want to graph something, I'm going to need graph paper. And whether I'm on a blackboard, a chalkboard, or here, it's very difficult to draw a good graph. So what I do is I have ready papers that I've used before. So you should be able, this should be coming up. Right? This is like from an old exam. And I'm going to use my Snagit software. And this is exactly what I do in class. I come up here and I say, oh, I need a piece of graph. And then I go back to my annotation software, and I simply use Control V to paste it in. So this takes no time, and now I have graph paper set up on my page. And then I say, oh, I need to find 2 points. Not that that's interesting, but so I need to make a table of points. Now, I'm going to make a mistake here. I'm going to put this line too far over. And so I get ready to say, we need X here and Y here, and I say, oh, this is not enough space. Well, one of the nice things about using dynamic software is you can take your pointer and say, whoop, I need that to be over here. Or I need something to be bigger, or I need to duplicate it. So let me finish writing this. So we have X, and notice that I'm color coding so that my kids understand that this X is going to come from here and Y from here. So this is good to use when for any kind of classroom where you need to connect things together so that people can understand what's happening. So now I'm going to go back and get my X color and say 0. And then I start to write my Y equals 3. And I say, see this X goes here. So we need to put that 0. And so immediately, what I couldn't get on the chalkboard without a whole bunch of colored chalk that you can't get off the chalkboard, I can get here. I can make the connection between 2 different things. I'm really familiar with math, but we do this in every subject. So in any talk, you would do this. So this would be 0 minus 2 equals minus 2. And then I come over here and say, let's write that down. So this is 0 and minus 2. Don't worry, it won't get too mathy. And now I can easily draw a line saying that I'm now working on the second part. It's very difficult to draw lines on a blackboard without it becoming part of the thing. Now I notice that I need these to be longer, so I extend them. I come back, I get my 1 here, and let me just quickly write this in. Y equals 3 times 1 minus 2 equals 3 minus 2 equals 1. And I deliberately got one that looks the same, so that when I put it over here, they can see that this one came from there, and this one comes from here. And now I'm getting ready to graph this. So let me put the 2 points in, 0 minus 2, and 1, 1. And another, like I said, the nice thing is that you can fix things up. I really want to draw a line through these 2 points, but it's hard to do, so I draw a line through this, come up here, and say, now let me back it up down. And I have a nice, accurate drawing of this picture. Now, let's say that I'm interested in seeing this tiny little piece of this better, right? So what I would do is I want to talk about where that line intersects, where the red line intersects that line. The point is I want a little piece of it to be bigger. So what I'm going to do is group these together, copy them, and go on to the next page here, put that way up there, drag this like this down here, and I can say, See, you can see this point right there is about, it doesn't really matter what it is, but it's about right this point right here, has an x value of 0, 7. And I say that's the root. Okay, something like that, doesn't really matter. Anyway, so then they say to get that root, we have to solve an equation. So let's say that that root is 0 equals 3x minus 2. Doesn't matter, 3x minus 2 equals 0, 3x equals 2, x equals 2/3. Well, 2/3 is not a very helpful number. It doesn't tell them how big it is and whether this is right. They might know it here for 0, 7. So what I simply do is say, here's a calculator. Whoop, did I lose me? Lost me? No, there it comes. Hang on, it's not refreshing properly. Let's see if we can get it to refresh properly.
It's okay, just give it some time.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we can see it.
Good to know that we're all here.
Yeah, we're here. We're listening. It's interesting. Go ahead.
So the point is we can now pull up another piece of technology, which is very easy for them to see, so that you're not standing there with a little something in your hand saying, okay, this is what we do. They can actually see me do 2 divided by 3 equals, and because Microsoft is so good about this, you can actually use Control-C and Control-V, but we see that it's 0, 7. So I will just use Control-C so we can see that. Whoop, I pulled up the wrong one. Anyway, I've closed it. So let me turn that off. Wait a minute. Oh, now I did turn off the wrong one. Hang on. Okay, let's see. Sorry, one moment. Okay, so I wanted to show you that we could move something in, make it bigger, make it smaller, bring up a calculator, bring up another program, and that's what we're going to do. Just for one more sample, we're going to see, okay, so we want to check this work. I try to get my kids to do something like that. So I say, let's bring up the freeware, in this case, GeoGebra, right? Here it is in English. There's lots of languages. I'm sure nobody's interested in GeoGebra, but anyway. So I would type y equals 3x minus 2, just like the problem was. I'm seeing if you got that right. And hit enter. And they can see that. So they can see that it was the same graph as they had. Move it around if they want to. They can find the root here, between the intersection between these two things. And say, oh yes, that's what we got. It's right. And then again, I would just copy this by using my copyware so that they can go home and try it. It's coming like that. And go back to my thing and write checking and paste that in. Now, let's say I now save this. I'm checking to see whether you can see it. Right, file, and I save it as whatever. Okay, let's learn together notebook. And then I print it. I can either use one of the printers that comes with anything I have, a PDF printer, to a PDF file, like I said. Okay, let me make that smaller so it comes up on our little sharing frame. Did I move the sharing frame? I might have moved the sharing frame, huh? Okay, instead of what I wanted to move, which was this thing. Okay, so we save it as a PDF. I'm trying to get this to come up, but I don't know if it will. Okay. So
it's okay. We can see it.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to show them what it looked like when it can't show everybody, because I like these things. Obviously, these things fascinate me. So, okay, and this should become smaller. Oh, okay. And so you can see the PDF coming down there in the bottom. It's not matching up to the share frame, but it's coming down there. Whoop, and now I've lost everything. Here we go. So then they can print this, obviously, and they have everything that was taught, and it's available on the web. So that's the end of the dynamic part. Going back to the static part. Okay.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second? If you go back to how you did this example, Damir has a question. How do you change these tools? It's not visible on the video.
Oh, okay. Okay, I go up there and I click on each of the tools. I'm bringing the tools in here now, right? Mm-hmm.
So basically you can see it, but we can't because it's a small.
That's right. I only have a very small window to show you. So
okay.
It was right above there. It was right above. And that's why I like this particular program, is because what you're actually doing in class will be your whole screen. So you want to be able to move it around, whereas InkSoft and OneNote have the tools are fixed in a certain place. So I had this right above the place that I was sharing. I don't want to move it too much, I get excited. And so I would click on that tool, right down there, click on that tool, and you saw how quickly I could change between the colors and the types of line, and the highlighters work really nicely, right? And you can change their colors, and I would circle the answer, so that's also very nice, so they can see that part. You can erase something, so I'm not sure. I think I can erase that. Yeah. Whoop. Yeah. So, and then of course you can undo, but that's a little bit more work. Yeah. There it goes. Okay. So that's how you do that, and it's really the kids like it. It's fun. It's in color. Go back to the presentation part. Okay.
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 Right,
oh, does that answer the question?
I think it does. Yes, I think it does.
Thank you.
See.
Oh, sure. Let me get rid of this. Okay. So we've moved past that, Linda. We're hopefully going to get PowerPoint to come on. Okay. So that's what we did. We did those, right? Okay. Let me fix the sharing frame now here. Okay, so this works more effectively than a chalkboard. Plus, I have to admit, I'm getting old, and it's very nice to sit down and not actually have to write on a chalkboard and erase it, although I didn't put that in here. And I can face my kids, mine are students, but I've done pupils too. It's really nice to be able to face them. You can see if their faces are blank, whereas when you're writing on a chalkboard, you're facing the chalkboard. You can talk to them. There's direct interaction. If something is too small, that's one of the nice things about it. You can change it without doing anything, right? You can go back and get something from somewhere else. And I had 96 kids. I had 120 last week. Nobody complained that they could not read the board. Whereas if you get 5 rows back on a blackboard, you're lost. Nothing is erased. You go on to the next page, so that if somebody says, well, where did you get that from? You just back up. So it's really interesting. You know, once you erase the chalkboard, it's gone, right? And I love color coding everything. You know, one of my big problems when I was studying math was everything was the same color. Nobody could figure out, you know, or any subject, nobody could figure out what was related to something else. So if you take the time to change your tools and use colors, it's much easier in class, and it's much easier when they're reading the notes after that. There's a few more here. I like that I can prepare images ahead of time. So especially if it's not math, you usually have images that are complicated and things like that. And you can still talk and work in real time, but on a blackboard, for sure, you can't put an image in. So it really is good. You saw how I brought the graph in, which was really helpful to making an effective, so they could see where the root was, where it passed through the thing. You can make the things bigger and smaller. Dynamic technology is available at my fingertips. I use different kinds of software. I could do screenshots. You saw me bring up the calculator, which everybody loves when I do that, because otherwise they're not sure what's happening. And my kids, I thought they weren't reading this stuff, so I got kind of bored with doing it once and didn't publish them. And in no time at all, my kids were saying, "How come you didn't post the notes? Why doesn't my assistant do it this way?" Because I have several different assistants, and some of them do it. So I realized that they actually were taking advantage of what I was putting up online, which was really nice to know. And why is this more effective than static content like a PowerPoint presentation? Okay, it's frontal instruction, which means you're talking to your audience. And although there's research every which way, frontal instruction has proven to be the most effective, particularly if you have more than 5 kids, which we all do. But you have all the technology at your fingertips. It's dynamic. What I hate about PowerPoint presentations or static content presentations particularly is that every classroom is different. I teach the same class 4 times in 1 week, and every classroom is different. Different students ask different questions, and you can, right there in that moment, solve a problem to illustrate something that they don't get. Whereas if you have static content, it goes one equation, the next equation, the next equation, the next equation, and everybody's asleep. Also, I put questions, I put problems up on the board. I go back and I work with my students. I come back, we add the answer, or I solve them later, and when I post them, I put the whole posting up. Okay, am I going over time? No, I think I'm okay. Right. And what I love about this thing is it's cheap and easy. It's a graphics tablet that cost me 60 euros, and I plug it in like a mouse. I plug in my mouse on one side, and I plug in my graphics tablet on the other side, and I'm set to go. The most important thing that I found after 35 years of teaching is if I write, the kids will write. They'll take notes. If I do show and tell, if I do, overhead projectors, graphoscopy, or if I do PowerPoint, the kiddies sit there with their mouths open and watch, and that's it. And I tell them everything gets learned through your fingertips. If you put it in your fingertips, you learn it, and that's, if you don't, you don't. Okay, that's it. Eva?
I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for this great presentation. Thank you for sharing this work. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure that everyone else here will agree with me. I have to admit, I'm not really a math fan, but this would definitely occupy my attention in class, for sure. So hopefully this will motivate other teachers that are here with us today to do something similar in their classrooms. I'm sure their children, their pupils would appreciate it. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions from the participants. If there's anything you would like to know about Linda's work, about how she works with her pupils, this is the time to ask. Just to remind everyone, you can ask questions orally by turning on your microphone or by using the questions and answers tool from the menu in the bottom left corner. I see we have a question from Lydia. Lydia is asking, are students using computers in the classroom, or are they just working on papers?
In this classroom, they are not using computers. There would be no way to do 100 computers. These are large lectures. We have financial problems, so I have 100 kids in one class and 65 in the other. But in other classes that I have, we do have computers, like for finite mathematics, where there's only like 30 students. They are in front of computers, and you show them what they need to do, and they do it on the computer. But this is math, and that was kind of my point at the beginning, that this is not dependent on the assessment method. There's no way we can assess children in mathematics on computers in large groups. And so the idea was that just dynamic presentation, where the kids are actually writing down what you're writing down, as if you're at a chalkboard, but you're giving them more information, and they have their own calculators and stuff like that. In this classroom, they are sitting at their desk writing what I'm writing, or actually writing more because I give them problems to solve. But yes, does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does. She would also like to know, how do you get your students involved in the lecture?
Oh, well, mainly, first of all, just because I'm facing them, they're much more involved. When I would write on a blackboard, every time I turned my back to them, half of them were gone, especially, from rows 10 back, they were gone. So you're facing them, so it's a little bit more, just because you're facing them, they're more involved. Secondly, like I said, I give them problems to work. They have to bring their calculators and stuff like that with them to class, and they have to actually work, and I get up I put down my graphics tablet, I get up and I walk around and make sure that everybody's working, and nobody is allowed to sit in my classes if they're not working. That's the rule, and I don't require them to come to class, but I usually get a pretty big turnout because I require them to work, and then I think that's how I get them involved. And then they're allowed to ask any questions. They're allowed to say, oh, I got this, I got that. So it's, even though there's 120 students last week, there was only 96 yesterday because it was so cold, they're involved not because of the dynamic, perhaps because of the dynamic presentation, but just because of the way I interact in the classroom. But it's much easier to interact because you can see everything and you're talking to your students when they're, you're actually facing them as you're writing.
Okay, thank you. Well, Damir wants to know, do you ever use chalkboard?
Oh, when the technology fails, that's what you do. I was in a classroom 2 weeks ago. The power went out. I wrote on the chalkboard.
Okay. Yeah. Emergency situation.
Yeah, but you're ready because you've got everything. You've done that. Yes, I do use the chalkboard, and a lot of times I will leave something up on the chalkboard that I want permanently up. The chalkboard's on the side. So, like for example, if there's going to be a meeting or something like that, or something that I consider important, like a web address, I'll write that on the chalkboard too, because this changes as you go through, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay, Darko is asking, do pupils collect PDFs from a website at home or somewhere at the faculty? And what about those without a PC at home?
Okay, these are university students in information technology, so we presume that most of them have computers.
Okay.
But
sure. Good point.
Yes, I've had both ways work. Yes, I don't really like them to have computers in front of them because for big classrooms, because they're not really watching you, they're watching Facebook. At least you want to turn off the internet when they're doing it. So but they can collect the PDFs, and I make audio-visual presentations, screencasts, and then watch them. And yes, so both, I guess, would be the answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dennis would like to ask something. I think he has his microphone on, maybe, or maybe not. Dennis? Go ahead if you have a question. Or maybe not. Okay. So what was the reaction of your school to your university to using these methods?
I had a project, so I got the boards without having to ask anybody to pay for them. And my school lets me do what I want, basically. It's a university, according to the old university system. So basically, I can do what I want. But the kids, the way I judge that it works is the kids come to my class. And they're not required to come to the lectures. They're required to go to the exercises with the teaching assistants, but they're not required to come to the lectures. And I figure since they're coming and it's math, it must be reasonably interesting.
All right. And what about the other teachers? After seeing how you do it, how it's successful with your classes, do they do something similar?
My teaching assistants do something similar, and they have all asked for boards, and I've gotten boards for them and things like that. I think Macedonia is probably suffering from the same, I don't want to say like disease, but that kind of like ennui, I've seen teachers still use not even PowerPoint. They just put their book that they've, underneath the machine, and here's, the stuff. Some other teachers have tried the graphics tablet. It does take Probably it took me about 4 or 5 times writing to be able to write decently on it, right? I mean, it takes a little bit of time to learn to write decently on it. I don't think I have 2 assistants that died for it. I mean, they said, can we have boards? Can we have boards? Can we have boards? And they put, but I have 2 assistants that didn't ask for boards, so. Right.
Okay, so you just let them do it their way. You're not pushing anyone to do anything, even though they are your assistants, right?
Well, the trouble is that there's no equipment in the room, so we have to bring in our own video projector, our own laptop, and so the question is whether they have laptops. And I got my, I have enough, as a professor, I have enough money to buy my own laptop, and 2 of my assistants are really gung-ho, information people, and they bought their own laptops, but 2 of them are not, and so they don't, and I would think that that's really the reason they don't want to risk their home machines for that.
Right, right. Okay, Darko is asking, does jumping from application to application throughout the lecture distract or confuse pupils, or they just don't pay attention to tools?
You have to do it very slowly. You have to make sure that, what I usually do is check to make sure that they've written, it's particularly distracting that if they're writing something and you switch to another tool. That means that they haven't even finished the sentence on their paper, let alone in their head. So I usually wait before I switch to another to see if all their eyes are kind of looking at me, waiting for something. It is very distracting if you do click, click, click. And I am a clicker. I know that. So that's usually what I do is I wait till I see the whites of their faces.
Okay. Okay, so anyone else? Any questions? I found this presentation very, very interesting. Linda is one of the world experts in this area. Of course, I Googled her before we started arranging this webinar, and I was very impressed by what I found. I actually would encourage all of you to try to find something about Linda Stojanovska, and you will have no problems with finding her work online. That's what I gathered, that a lot of your things are online and they're accessible, and teachers can.
Free.
You're free.
No, I'm free. Yeah, I'm only interested in things that are free, that everybody can get to, because I live in a poor, rather poor country. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
it's okay. Free, they won't get it.
Right. Okay, Darko has another question. He's asking, have pupils' results improved compared to the times before technology was introduced?
Now I could easily say yes, but the quality of students has gone. The quality of their mathematical knowledge has gone down, so it would be very difficult to say yes without being kind of not factual, let us say. I mean, not based on facts, just based on my opinion. What I've noticed is that student interest has gone up since I have changed to this system, and I have noticed that my classes are chosen as opposed to other people's classes, whether that's the way that we teach them and try to get them involved in using technology. The fact that I say that 2/3 is a stupid thing to write down. It should be 0.7, because people understand what 70 cents means. They don't understand what 2/3 means. That could be easily, I try to make them practical and stuff like that. So I can't say that the method, but when I lost power 2 weeks ago, it definitely, you could see that their faces kind of, weren't as interested as when we were doing it on the video tablet, on the graphics tablet. We've all noticed, I'm sure, sorry. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
We've all noticed that student quality probably is not, whether they get too much information or whatever, the student quality goes down, so so that was all I was saying.
Well, it must be a good sign when 100 or more students show up for your class, which they don't have to show up for. Right.
It makes me feel better.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, another question for Darko. Do you also have online communication and collaboration with your students? Can they ask questions and post comments online after downloading the PDFs?
Not for my undergraduate students because I would be overwhelmed. I have like 200, I have 410 undergraduate students, but I do specifically do that for my postgraduate, my master's students, and of course my doctoral students are my TAs, so we talk and they communicate. But yes, I will have them write when I had them. Yes, they mostly do Skype, but and anybody can email me and I will write them back. But I don't do online communications with 450 students.
Yeah. Okay. Robert is asking. Sorry, let me just read this. Is all the software needed for this kind of teaching or learning is free?
Okay, InkSign is free. That's Microsoft Research. OneNote usually comes with Microsoft Office, right? The Mac software was all free. Jing for screen capture and screencast is free, and you can open up a free Jing account. You can open a free K through 12 wiki spaces for posting your material. I actually have a whole site, right? So that's where I post my materials through my university. The smartboard that you saw me using with the tools for writing, the smart notebook software, you have to own. Technically, you have to own. Your school has to own a smartboard, right? And my school owned a smartboard. It came with it. It still owns it. It's just sitting. But the smartboard itself is just sitting in a room doing nothing. 1,500 euros worth of nothing. I got the free thing. I got the software. So
well, yeah. Okay. I think that answers the question. Okay. Once again, we will send all of you the link to the recording of this webinar. And I will also include the links to Linda's websites where you can see what she's doing, and you can take some of her stuff and kind of adjust it to your classes and basically use what she's doing right now. I think we have come to an end of another very successful webinar. Thanks to everyone for participating. We have 2 webinars lined up for next week. First, we're going to host a teacher from United Kingdom who's going to tell us more about her project, Working in a Classroom Without Walls. That will be on Wednesday. And on Thursday, we'll hear about Ukrainian experience on children's safety on the Internet and their project called Onlandia. So I hope you'll join us again. Linda, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me.
I hope that we can do something like this again. Maybe a GeoGebra. Oh, excuse me. We call it GeoGebra, so it's kind of difficult for me. Okay. Okay. So maybe we can arrange a webinar about that. I'm sure a lot of teachers in Croatia would be interested because I know a lot of them are using it.
Yeah. That's something I really do. This is something I just want to decide. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. And I hope to see you again next week. Darko, is there anything you would like to say for the end? We're just going to wait for, because it takes a few seconds for the microphone to respond.
Yes. Next a couple of seconds. I hope you can hear me now. Well, I have to admit I'm impressed with what Linda has shown us today. Linda, thank you very much. It was inspiring, it was interesting, it was entertaining. It was an hour filled with learning new things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Marco has just reminded me that there are handouts, as Linda mentioned at the beginning. You can download them right now. If you take a look at the bottom right corner, you're going to see a little icon. It says handouts. Just click on it and download it. You can, after we are all gone, you can stay here and take your time and download the handouts so you can remember what Linda was saying. Okay, I think that's about it. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Linda, and I wish you all a great day. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.